Who fact-checks the elite? By elite, I refer to the general substructure of society that enjoys extremes of wealth and power, determining the direction of society and the narratives that are to be authorized. Thus it includes politicians and premiers, presidents, prime ministers, whatever, as servants temporarily in office, though they may also be true directors if they have independent wealth and power outside of office. It includes the titan corporations, Google, Facebook, Amazon, those corporations that have gone beyond monopoly to indispensable. Whatever happened to monopolies being bad? It includes megacorporations, global entities like the MIC, military-industrial complex, Big Pharma, and these days Big Pharma. Seems like Billy Boy has moved from tech to farmer to farming, might bear watching. It includes the subservient media selling whatever narrative and counter-narratives the government and elite choose to push. It includes financial institutions more than happy to monitor your money, restrict your money, give away your money to the government on demand. It includes legal and enforcement arms up to and including justice, defence, police, etc. In short, there is nothing of significance in society that is not an arm of the elite except one thing. Your mind, should you choose to safeguard it, can be kept outside the control of the elite. But my purpose in this video is simply to highlight per the Latin Quis, custodiet, ipsos, custodes, which loosely translates as who audits the sociopathic narcissists who control every outlet of significance, who control the messages we receive, who control the thoughts the masses naively thought they were having of their own free will. A company is required by law to be audited to ensure that the financial statements of the company reflect a true and fair view of the company. Who audits the government, a far more powerful and critical entity within society, which defines society to a huge extent, to ensure that it is likewise presenting a true and fair view in its narratives and statements. And if the government dismisses investigation and inquiry as conspiracy theory or misinformation, that is actually shutting down a function deemed so critical that it is enshrined in law for far more minor entities, being every corporation in society. So the moment someone criticizes, trolls, censors or blocks someone who has an opinion counter to the narrative, that is far more than a disagreement. It is far more than even an attack on free speech, justified to save lives or protect democracy, of course. It is an attack on the most fundamental responsibility that every citizen has, but which few exercise, which is to audit the financial and material statements of the government to ensure that they represent a true and fair view of reality. Because without a true and fair view of what is going on in the world, how can a citizen make an informed decision as to whether the government is making reasonable decisions in regard to matters of import to society? You, of course, already recognize all this, but sometimes it is worth getting something down on paper or declared explicitly to provide the foundation upon which we can build and a defense against the usual attacks against us. Because those attacks are not merely people exercising their right to disagree, they are people determined to eliminate dissent, which means that the sham of democracy is revealed front and centre. A democracy is where the people control the government, though I consider controlling them for 1 minute every 4 years as you vote to be absurd. A society where the government control the people is not a democracy. It is the opposite, literally an autocracy. So during the health crisis, to use one obvious example, did the government obey the will of the people, and where was that will determined or displayed? Or did the vast majority of the population obey the government, which means that no, we do not live in a democracy, US, UK, Canada, EU, take your pick, true of all of them, even sadly Australia and New Zealand. I say all this because if you're under 40, you have never experienced a society without a major threat determining policy, defining your very entitlement to act within your society. If we discount the period before, periods, etc., before boys and girls became significant at around 14 or so, then that's 26 years, which is basically 1998. So allowing for rounding and starting the new era as beginning with the Bush-Cheney administration, though we could easily go back to Iraq 1 and the fall of the Soviet Union 1990 plus, then yes, that's over 2 decades of overriding narratives of threat defining our societies. Based on those threats, our leaders, to give them a very generous term, entirely undeserved, shaped society, and as Bush so elegantly and succinctly put it, you're either with us or against us. Not much room for auditing the government, or even any tolerance for auditing the government, or even recognition that auditing is a legitimate necessity, a critical function within a democracy. So I want to set this out for clarity and to give a secure foundation for a critical initiative, one that I'll be continuing and one that others have long participated in. When I, you, others examine the facts and evidence surrounding and pertinent to narratives put out by the government and other important and powerful bodies, we are not putting lives at risk, threatening democracy, spreading dangerous misinformation, or doing any other thing dreamed up as malign by the very same people who want to avoid being audited. We are instead, as private, independent, responsible citizens, auditing the bleep out of the fraudulent, malevolent narratives dreamed up by the sociopathic, narcissistic, and frankly borderline, or indeed well over the line, evil creators of megadeath-dealing agendas. Or put another way, it's that time of the year, the auditors are in, we're just doing what we're required to do by law, which is to ensure that what you're saying presents a true and fair view of society and reality. As the elite themselves say, only criminals can possibly have a problem with that. The honest, impartial, fair citizens, politicians and elite will have no problem with it. All of which is my formal way of saying that I do analysis, and if you don't like that, well, you can bleep off, because I believe in a true and fair view of the world, so that we can make sure that dark and malevolent creatures soaked in greed and loving power don't mind-wipe the masses with fraudulent narratives to bleep us all over. But hey, if you want to believe in 19 guys with box cutters, the tooth fairy safe and effective, or the evil Putin, knock yourself out. Brit speak for go ahead. I will, however, continue to do my thing, which is analysis and innovation. The analysis part goes back 2 decades to the start of this era of misinformation, control and malign agendas, the latest iteration thereof. By an interesting coincidence, the innovation goes back to the same origin point 25 years ago. And you know, as I think about it, the inception for both those stories is also coincident and goes back 35 years to Gulf War I. I was watching CNN in the city, finance, and thinking I didn't want my RAF buddy to die for oil. Awakening. And I was hand-typing data into pre-Windows spreadsheets, Lotus Symphony, and thinking there had to be a better way. Innovation. So not only has my life been defined by these 2 dominant strands, analysis and innovation, but they were even born together in their adult manifestation. Weird. Not perhaps a coincidence, maybe? Never thought of it like that. Interesting. Bottom line, I will be reviewing ancient history 2 decades ago to demonstrate a key point. People have spent their lives listening to false narratives. And from that, my innovative side has a simple suggestion. Why don't we create a world where false narratives are easily investigated, flagged and disclosed? We could have done it with Aurora 1.0, our original tech, but it was designed for a simpler, more ethical world, a global brain, not a malign sociopath debunker. However, with society having demonstrated the need for the narcissistic sociopath debunker, aka audits of politicians' statements, we can easily adapt Aurora to Aurora 2, leveraging also AI, etc., and set up our auditing platform, a critical function in a truly free and fair society. So there you go, key takeaways. Auditing is important, we're going to do it, others are doing it, don't tolerate people saying that they shouldn't be doing it. And yes, we're breathing, and while we're breathing, we'll be doing analysis and promoting a free and fair world, aka Aurora 2. Any and all support appreciated. Andrew Mather, AndrewMatherExplore @gmail.com.